Most of us know exactly what we want and what we want to do. We've just gotten really good at talking ourselves out of it. I'm Julie, and welcome to Be Cringe, the podcast that explores what happens when you start living for yourself and stop worrying about the opinions of others. This might be cringe, but we are doing it anyway. Happy to have you here. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Be Cringe Podcast. I'm so excited to jump in and have you listen to the solo episode that I recorded. I kind of just had a conversation with myself, with all of you. I intentionally decided to record it unscripted and just see where the conversation went. And I am really happy with how it came out. I talk about this in the episode, but the first version of it was scripted and I thought it just sounded like it was scripted. It sounded like I was reading one of my essays, and that's not what I want this podcast to be. So I hope you enjoy it. I talk about why I'm doing this, what inspired me, what I'm hoping to get out of it, what I'm hoping all of you get out of it, and what you can expect. And I also dropped some pretty big news pretty casually, but I hope you enjoy listening to it, and I will see you on the other side. Hello, and welcome to Be Cringe. My name is Julie, your host, and this is our first episode. I can't wait to dive in. I wanted to start with a solo episode because I felt like it would be the best way to explain my podcast, why the heck I'm doing it, what brought me here. And so here we are. I'm really excited to sit down and have this conversation with myself, if you will. But I'm even more excited to be embarking on this journey of starting this podcast and all of the conversations that are coming. I spent some time today sending out some emails to potential guests, and I can't wait to talk to them and bring the conversations here. I'm just really looking forward to it. And if you're here, thank you for being here. I can't wait to dive in. So this is actually the second time I'm sitting down to record this solo episode. I announced my podcast and put up a trailer almost a month ago now. It was right around Valentine's Day. It might have been actually on Valentine's Day. That's because my husband bought me this podcast mic for Valentine's Day, knowing that starting a podcast was something that I'd wanted to do, but sort of danced around. He got me this mic, and I took that as my sign to get going and see where this journey could take me. So I put that teaser episode up. I'd actually recorded and edited a preview episode before the teaser was even done. I actually published that welcome episode and it was live for like an hour. And then I listened to it and honestly, it sounded scripted. I went into this not wanting to be perfect, but I was really self-conscious about the content. And so I sat down, I wrote a script like I would write an essay, and I read it word for word, and that was the episode. And it just felt scripted. And so I took it down and I said, I'm going to try again. I can have my notes, so I'm sure to hit on every point, but I don't want to read anything verbatim, and I don't want it to sound like I'm just reading an essay. That's something that I do. I've been writing a newsletter filled with personal essays for about 3 years now. So if I want to read an essay, I can do it there. I really want the podcast to be more conversations off the cuff. Obviously, I want to plan and be intentional and make it sound good and cohesive, but I think I went too far with that first episode. So we're here again. I'm giving it another try. I have no script and I am just speaking. That to me, for me, is something that's a little scary. I've always sort of said and had this belief about myself that I do best with written communication. When I think, I sort of think in circles. I speak in circles sometimes, and it can take me a moment to get my thoughts in order and sort of circle to my point. And so I had this narrative that I'm not a good public speaker. I've had it in my head that spoken communication just isn't my forte, and it's not the thing that I'm good at. And it's one of the things that sort of put me off from doing this for a while. I wanted to start a podcast for a really long time. I've had the idea for like this Be Cringe podcast for about a year, but I've seen myself podcasting for years and years and years. I've done little scenes in my head, pretending to have guests over, or I've pretended to be a guest on various podcasts that I've listened to. And so it's definitely something that I wanted to do. And just, I think this belief that I have about myself has stopped me from doing it. But I don't know. I wanted to do this anyway, so I'm here. I think me writing that script and reading it verbatim from the start was my way of controlling for what I think to be true about myself. And maybe it is true about myself, but that doesn't mean I have to show up differently, right? I'm not going to be for everyone. I am sure I will learn a lot along the way. Editing goes a really long way, I've learned, which is great. There have definitely been moments where I've stopped and repeated phrases just because they didn't sound right the first time. But I think letting myself lean into that rather than overcorrecting is kind of the way that I want to do this. So round 2, version 2, we've got a podcast. Let's talk about it. So my name is Julie. Hi, nice to meet you. I mentioned I write a newsletter called This Might Be Cringe. I've been writing it for about 3 years. I already said all of that. That's okay. And that has been a space for me to just explore a lot of different things, a lot of topics that speak to me, that call to me in a particular moment. I've written about motherhood. I wrote about my layoffs that I've been through. I've written about being pregnant while being laid off. I've written about just sort of like observations. One of my favorite essays that I've written is an essay that I wrote while sitting in a coffee shop, and I was observing people and their actions and sort of connected it to these big sociological concepts and themes. And I had so much fun writing that. I write about, me, my screen time, all kinds of things. And I wrote an essay about 1.5 years ago called Embarrassment is Fake, all about how embarrassment is fake, right? How embarrassment really is just this idea and this sort of fear that we put on ourselves based on an idea someone might have. So we can't really prove it. It's so internal, but for me, and I know for many others, it's like so crippling and so profound and has such a strong hold. And I wrote that essay and just felt called to talk more about that idea of stepping out and doing things, even though they feel scary and risky and cringe, as the kids say. And so that's actually when I renamed my newsletter, This Might Be Cringe, touched around it a little bit, but kind of didn't talk too much more about it. It would sort of be a theme that would come up in various essays that I wrote, but never hammered too much on it. And then at the start of this year, I launched a series called Be Cringe, which is a year-long series of essays where every month we go through a different theme. So we're in month 3 now. We are being cringe about our blocks. In the first month, we just were cringe about showing up. And in month 2, it was all about being cringe about wanting. This month is really about understanding, like, why are all these things that we might want to do? Why are they embarrassing? Why do we have fear around them? I think for me, I talk a lot about being bullied and wanting to fit in. And so everything that I do in the public eye or even the private eye in front of people I know, I'm always scrutinizing and thinking, how is this going to be taken? Who could say what about it? And that has just been such a big driver for me. I think money is another one of my blocks. And so that's been what we've been doing this month. Last month was all about just like stating what you want and stating what you want without any qualifiers. So this podcast is a perfect example of that. It's not, I want to start a podcast one day, or wouldn't it be cool if I did a podcast, or when things calm down. It's just saying, I want to start a podcast. And all those other things may be true. It might be one day. You might need to wait till things calm down. You might not have the idea for it yet, but saying I want to start a podcast is super powerful. So that's the thing that came out of my Be Cringe series. I had some other things that I stated I wanted, but that is really just me practicing what I preach a little bit and going through this year-long journey to discover myself and live up to the expectations I've put on myself, but like good expectations, not the overbearing ones, and really just living up to the dream and the things I want to do and kind of all these things that I know I've held back on up until now. So that's that series, and this podcast was born out of it. I knew I wanted to start a podcast. I knew that I wanted it to be around this subject, but I didn't quite know the shape and the form. And as I've been putting myself out there more online, I have just met more and more people who are doing the same, and that's who I want to talk to. So there are going to be some really interesting conversations. I want to talk to people who are putting themselves out there, who are just so unapologetically themselves, people who are chasing after the dream, people that chased after the dream and had to sort of recalibrate. I think there's a lot of power in that and doing that out in public. People who have always known they wanted to do something but didn't follow the path and are sort of reconciling with that years later. So that's the gist. So I've really loved the connections I made from my newsletter, and I know I can continue to talk to more people this way. So I'm really excited about it. I know that I'm not alone. I know I'm not the only one thinking, overthinking, not pursuing things that they are passionate about because of what other people say. I know that there are plenty of people who are sort of sitting there knowing that there's more out there, knowing the thing that they want to do, but not knowing how they can get themselves in a place to go forward and pursue it, or knowing they don't want to do what they're doing, but don't even know how to get in this headspace to explore what else could possibly be out there. And I've definitely been there. I think I've had a lot of really specific things that I've wanted to do, but then I've also had some things that I know that I haven't wanted to do, or just sort of knowing what I'm doing now is fine, but I want to do more. And a good example of that is my career. I've been a product manager for 5 years. I've worked in tech for 10 years now, mostly in startups. And I've had this moment for a while and have had this thought where I know that that can't be it, that that's not it for me, that there's more that I'm going to be doing, but I don't really know what that shape looks like. I have this hunch that it's some sort of self-employment thing, but I haven't really allowed myself to sit down and figure that out. And when I was going through my Be Cringe About Wanting journey, one of the things that I said was like, I want to try being self-employed. And it's like, once I said it, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And so this podcast is also how I'm announcing that I've quit my job, and I'm really excited to step into this space and just sort of figure it out, or not. I definitely have the pressure of some financial runway that I'm working with, but I'm grateful to have built the cushion that I have. And maybe we'll do some solo check-ins where I can tell you about how all of that is going. But I think that's also one of the reasons that it took me so long from launching the podcast to getting the solo episode up. I almost knew that I couldn't record this until I was in that other headspace of really going after it all. And so now I am. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of the gist of who I am, why I am here, what I am looking to do. I am going to read through my notes and my script to see if I've hit everything on the head. I might edit this out. Yeah, there's some stories in here. Maybe they'll come up later. I don't see the need to just sit here and continue to talk, but like essentially the thesis is I feel like I live my life around creating excuses for myself, around not chasing the things that I want to chase, of making decisions based off of what I think is expected of me, of what I think is safe, of what is going to keep me out of scrutiny's way. And I don't love the idea of doing that for the rest of my life. It sounds unfulfilling. It sounds exhausting. I turned 35 in 2 months, and I'm just having this realization that we get this one life. Our lives are precious. We should do what we want to do in this life, so long as, it's not harmful to ourselves or others, and we can sort of support our lifestyle. I'm not telling everyone to quit their job without saving. You get it, hopefully. But I'm just understanding that it's my time to live my life for myself so I can show up better. I am a parent, and I want to pass that lesson on to my child, that being true to yourself, to your values, to your morals, to what you enjoy and what you want to do and what feels right is just the most important, or one of the most important things. And I had a lot happen in my childhood that I couldn't accept that. I appreciate everybody for being here, for listening. I'm so excited to bring our first guest. It'll launch in a couple weeks here. We haven't recorded yet, but we did our intro call, and I just know it's going to be such a good conversation. I'm also really excited about some of the other people that I have in the pipeline as guests. So most weeks it's going to be me and someone else. We're going to talk about whatever they want to talk about, wherever the conversation goes. We'll do a couple solo episodes along the way when I have something to share. I think it's important for me to get better at this, but thank you for being here. Keep an eye out for that next episode. In the meantime, take one small step towards doing the cringe thing You know which one it is. And if you don't, think about what it could be. Think about why you can't think of it. And I challenge you to take out a notebook, take out a notes app, open your Google Docs and write the words I want and see what happens, and put a period before you start to qualify it. Put a period before you say things like one day or when these conditions have been met. Just say I want thing and put a period and see what happens. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to end this here. I have no idea what I just said, honestly. I have no idea how long I've been recording for. I stopped and restarted. So this will be fun to edit and listen back to. But I already feel better about this one than the other one. I do. It's okay. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, year, whenever you're listening to this. And let's go be cringe together.